Welcome back to the Grand Slam channel. Hope you all had a great weekend. We got two Monday night football games today. We got the Seahawks versus the Lions, and we got the Titans versus the Dolphins. Posted my slips on my Discord. I had 3 correlation slips for each game, including my day 2 of the Latter Day Challenge, which I'll post in a bit on my Instagram and Twitter as well. Let's get started. First one I'm going to be going with for tonight's games, probably my favorite one is going to be Tony Pollard. And for him, I like multiple props. Rushing yards, 52.5. Fantasy score, receiving yards, and receptions. So you can see rushing and receptions are a popular play. His receptions at 2.5 last night. I still like it at 3. Worst case scenario pushes. He should have 4. I have him projected to get 4. My favorite prop for him that I'll be taking will be his rushing and receiving yards. Last game he didn't do so well, but before that he was on a tear. I know they wanted to split time between the 2 running backs for the Titans, but I expect Tony to come back and be the primary once again. So I'm going to be taking his 69.5 rushing receiving yards. I expect that to get bumped. But like I mentioned, rushing yards are great, receiving and receptions, as well as his fantasy score. He'll be my anchor, just like yesterday. Aaron Jones was my anchor yesterday. He cashed pretty much everything. So same thing with Tony Pollard. I'm going to be taking him. Next one I'm going to be taking is Geno Smith. And for him, I like his passing yards, which has been bumped from 246 all the way to 250 now. I expect it to get bumped even more, closer to game time. So passing yards, passing attempts. Personally, I like his pass completions. I do have that on a slip. Fantasy score is good, but personally I like his NFL first half, and that'll be his fantasy score. Actually, his passing yards and his fantasy score are both great, but personally I'll be taking his fantasy score at 8. He's cashed this all this season. I expect him to come out. Should be a shootout against the Lions, so I expect Geno Smith to come out hot as usual does in the first half. If he gets 100 yards and a touchdown, he should catch that. You can see his past couple, he had 200, 169 in the first half. He had 59 in the opener, but he should be somewhere in the 125, close to 150 range. If he throws a touchdown, he's close over 100 yards. He should easily catch his first half. Plus, he has the option of running as well. So I'll be taking Geno Smith first half fantasy score. Probably be my favorite prop for him. Along his passing yards as well and his completions. But let's head on over to the full game props. That is the only one I like for the first half. Let's head on over to rushing yards. Jamar Gibbs, Montgomery, either of these two are best. Both are runners, both are the dual threat for the Lions. They can both receive the ball, so you might want to target their rush and receiving yards as well. So if one of these two are going to go off, usually they both do. One of them usually gets more touches than the other. And you can see Jamar Gibbs had 83 yards last game, 105 for Montgomery. So you might want to target one of these guys, just depends who's going to go off. But either of these two are great. I did take Devon for 39.5. I did take that on one of my correlation slips. I did take his Gabi, 39.5. Let's head on over to receiving yards. Actually, before that, Tyreek Hill is one of my primary options. Fantasy score, receiving yards, rushing receiving yards. This Gabi at 29.5 is great. I also took his rush and receiving. If you're looking for a demon, this is probably his best demon for his rush and receiving touchdowns. I expect him to be more active. I know the starting QB for Miami is out. So the past game, Tyreek Hill wasn't much of an option. But I'm going to be taking him. He should have a bounce back. So most likely I'll be targeting his receiving yards and his fantasy score. And I'll probably throw this demon rushing and receiving touchdowns in a slip as well. But Tyreek Hill should bounce back. I'm targeting some of these players to bounce back. Amon, receiving yards, receptions is probably my favorite one. This was at 7 last night. It got bumped down to 6.5. It's one of the primary, if not the primary weapon for Detroit. I know they have Monty and Jamar, but Amon is their #1 receiver, so I'm going to be taking the reception at 6.5. Its favor now, since it was at 7 last night. 6.5 is great. Receiving yards, fantasy score, you should have a touchdown. So you can target all those options for him. Next one I like to mention is DK Metcalf. He should definitely be into play today. And for him, I did take his receiving yards at 68.5. Fantasy score is good as well at 13.5. Gets a touchdown, you should easily catch that. He usually average close to 100 yards. You can see his past 2 games, big games at 20.4, 28.9. Should have a big game against Detroit. Should counterattack the attack of the Lions offense. Metcalf is their #1 option, so you can target their 2 #1 options for Detroit and Seattle. So for Metcalf, fantasy or receiving yards, and these are probably the 5 best that I like for tonight's games. Obviously, there's so many other options. I did have 3 correlation slips for each game, so that brings us up to 6 slips. That's not including day 2 of the Latter Day Challenge and among other slips. But other than that, these are the 5 best that I like, so you guys can mix and match, pick your favorite. Other than that, if you're interested in the Discord, the link is in the description below. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Appreciate the support. Hope y'all have a great week, and see you guys in the next one.